For the last 15 years, I've been a passionate cyclist, travelling over 160,000 kilometres in that time. Look, I'm a road cyclist, I'm a commuter, a tourer, a city rider, a bike path rider, a randonneur. I am a cyclist. It's part of my identity as an individual. The reasons I ride are many: health, both physical and mental, financial, environmental, but mostly because I just love that feeling of freedom you can only achieve on a bicycle. I will note here that I'm also a driver and a car owner. As a cyclist, I realise I am a vulnerable road user and always do my best to be predictable and visible to others. As road users, we all have to have a certain degree of trust in the operators of the other vehicles with which we share the road. Whilst we must always be wary of another vehicle's actions, road laws give us good reference points in predicting likely behaviour. Despite this, like most cyclists, I've had my share of near misses. I've learned to consider myself invisible to motorists and try to ride accordingly. Following the near miss, the most common line I hear back from the motorist is, "Sorry mate, I didn't see you," or "Smidsy," as it's known amongst us cyclists. I've experienced road rage in the form of a car being driven straight at me. I've had various objects thrown at me, including eggs, bottles, and even once milk. One time a motorist wielded a chain at our group while still driving. Well, on Friday, April 29 this year, every cyclist's nightmare became my reality. A car collided with me on Racecourse Road in Kensington while I was commuting home from work. I did not see the car coming and have no memory of the actual collision. I refuse to call it an accident. First thing I can recall is picking myself up off the ground, then noticing blood on my hands and teeth on the road. Unbelievably, the very first thing the driver said to me was, "Sorry mate, I didn't see you." I still don't know how this was possible. I've just taken from Google Maps overshot of Racecourse Road. To the right here, that's the city end going towards the Flemington Racecourse end, which is where I was riding home. The yellow arrow indicates the direction I was riding. I was in a marked bike lane. Friday, April 29th I was about 4:45 p.m. when I was coming home from work. It was the last full day of daylight saving, so light was still good, but it was an overcast day. It was a bit gloomy, so I didn't have my lights, both front and rear, in operation at that time. The blue boxes are cars that were stationary. The traffic light was red up ahead, so the cars were all banked up. There's a key clear zone there. The car before the key clear zone was a four-wheel drive, so I had not great visibility ahead of me into that key clear area. A car coming from the opposite direction on Racecourse Road executed a right-hand turn through the key clear without any consideration that a cyclist might be coming through the bike lane. As I said, I didn't see it coming. The first thing I knew was I was picking myself up off the road. As a result of the collision, I sustained serious facial injuries. I'd lost 4 teeth, upper teeth, and I lost 4 teeth from the upper jaw, and my lower front teeth were pushed back almost 90 degrees with my lower lip hooked over these. I had suffered fractures to my left maxillary sinus, my left maxillary alveolar ridge, and an irregular fracture of the midline mandible. But really, I'm just thankful that I'm not dead, have brain damage or spinal damage. I was taken by ambulance to the trauma centre at the Royal Melbourne Hospital, which is how I presented. I won't leave that up too long. That's 1 week after the accident. So the body is remarkable how it heals. Within 24 hours of being admitted to the Royal Melbourne Hospital, I underwent surgery where I lost a further 3 teeth from the upper jaw, so I've lost 7 in total. My lower front teeth were reset and splintered. I had a titanium plate inserted into my upper jaw. The bone was smashed. Basically, I don't have much bone left in my gum. And I just had stitches, just so many stitches. But as I said, within a week, it's remarkable how my face was completely swollen after it. It's really started to come down. I want to note that whilst the driver made a terrible decision at that moment, he did stop, he did call an ambulance, and he rendered assistance for the ambulance arrived. It was not a hit and run. He has since contacted me and sent messages to inquire on my well-being, and his actions is weighing heavily on his conscience, which He's not a bad person. He made a bad decision, but he's not a bad person, and I want to stress that. During my stay in hospital, I quickly accepted what had happened and resolved to stay positive. As a cyclist, I'd always considered the possibility that I could get hit, and it did happen, unfortunately, so I accepted that it was part of it. It was a risk I accepted as part of the contract of being on the road. I cannot change the past, so I decided it was more important to focus on looking forward and on what I can control, being my rehabilitation. The first 2 weeks, I had to adjust to post-trauma life at home. I was put on a non-chew diet for 6 weeks. I invented my own daily smoothie recipes and posted them on Facebook just for fun. One of the early challenges I found at home was beating the boredom. Not used to being at home all day. Whilst I was severely traumatised around the face, physically I felt able, mentally I felt able, but I was stuck at home. I tried to go for walks around the block outside, but it was May at that time, it was cold, and my mouth just ached with the cold air. So I was literally stuck at home, and I found that very difficult. But the support I received from family and friends was overwhelming. To help me beat the food boredom, my wife, who's sitting here in the front row, got creative in the kitchen. We did nachos in a blender, also known as Mexican slops. Deconstructed New York cheesecake. Friends brought over soup, and Vietnamese neighbours were making me congee every few days. A great sense of community, you don't realise it's there till you've suffered something like this, and it's just amazing. The TAC, they initially provided great support. Their obvious goal was to facilitate my return to work as soon as possible, which I did achieve in 3 weeks. However, once done, the TAC support level dropped off, going from a personal case manager to the client assist team. The next stages of my recovery required initially dental work. I needed a temporary denture, which I have made, but I chose to do the talk today about the denture to get the effect of exactly what's been done. Followed by endodontic work in the form of 6 root canals, which I'm currently undergoing at the moment. I've had 4 at the front, I've got 2 more, I'm scheduled actually for one of those tomorrow, and there's still a good chance, probably 50% I'm going to lose those teeth despite all the work I've done. The waiting time for the TAC to approve my treatment plans just took way too long. For example, it took approximately 10 weeks to get my endodontic treatment approved, and this was only after I contacted them and pleaded my case. During this time, my teeth ached every second of every minute, of every hour, of every day, and so on. 3 months since my accident, I still hadn't had the work done. It's hard to live with that. And there are people who go through accidents with much worse trauma than what I had to deal with. My eating was compromised, my bottom front teeth were very weak, and I'd been advised by my endodontist not to bite any food at all. I could chew, but I couldn't bite. So again, that makes things very awkward, especially when eating out of home. I'm not sure how, but the TAC bureaucracy needs to improve the efficiency of their approval process. I understand that with taxpayers' money, there needs to be a surety of the integrity of the claim, but 10 weeks is just too long. During this process, I also learned that TAC paid a schedule fee. I understand why this is the case, but was nonetheless shocked at the potential gap payment of thousands of dollars for my treatment. Fortunately, I have additional cycling insurance as part of my memberships to Bicycle Network Australia and Cycling Australia. But how about people with no secondary forms of insurance? The long time delays and potential large out-of-pocket expenses have added much mental stress to me during my ongoing rehabilitation journey. As I said, after 3 weeks at home, I returned to work, my employer being Monash University. And they were very supportive of me through this process and have been. I'm very lucky I've had them as an employer. I found this to be a difficult process. As colleagues are naturally curious about the where, the how, the why, the what of the collision. However, it had been 3 weeks, I've moved on from that. As I said, my approach is about looking forward, not looking back, but going to work. I was prepared for it once, but over the 2-3 days, I must have 50, 60 people approach me. I had people cry coming up to me. It's very emotionally confronting and overwhelming to deal with that. And like I said, I just wanted to focus on my recovery, but I understood where they come from, and I would have probably done the same thing in their shoes. So, yeah, it was a hard process, much harder than I ever realised it would be. My cycling experiences have led me to form the view it seems to be a number of motorists who just don't look for any vehicles on the road that are smaller than another car. By this I mean that when giving way, the motorist only allows for a cursory glance, which only gives them time to see a larger vehicle and not the more vulnerable road users. You know, only about 6 weeks after I was hit, there was that vision on the TV of 2 motorcyclists that got hit near Maribyrnong, which is not far from where I live. And that was almost my exact same scenario, but I was on a push bike in that one there. And again, he just went straight through about any consideration that a vulnerable road user might be there. From this, I formed the idea for a potential road safety campaign that could be built around this catchphrase, "Sorry mate, I didn't see you." An advertisement could be structured around showing some near-miss scenarios involving a variety of vulnerable road users, each ending with the driver stating, "Sorry mate, I didn't see you." The ad could conclude with a collision with a voiceover of the driver again saying this phrase, "Sorry mate, I didn't see you." Whilst education of motorists is always preferable, I also propose that thought is given to introducing double fines and double demerit points for offences involving cars and vulnerable road users, but of course only when the car is at fault. During my time in the Royal Melbourne Emergency Ward, I promised myself that I would return to cycling. I did this approximately 1 month after the collision, but it was not easy and was achieved through the support of my cycling buddies. I lack confidence, mainly due to my trust of other motorists being compromised. I have changed the way I ride to work since then. I did have the option of bike paths, but I was a confident road user. I'd done it many times before, but I still ride on the road. I'm a road cyclist, but I have adjusted my behaviour since. Back to the collision. Apart from the obvious error by the motorist, what could I have done better? Was there some complacency on my part? Why did I enter the keep clear zone without adequate caution? As I said, there was a forward drive there. I actually couldn't see if there was a danger there. I did recognise it, and I recall recognising it as danger because I couldn't see what was coming. But I'd done it hundreds of times before, and I did enter that zone blind. As I said, probably because I had done this hundreds of times before. I had thought it was safe to ride in slow-moving peak hour traffic. I ride a lot in country roads. Cars go past me at 100 kilometres an hour. I had thought that in peak hour traffic it was safer. I hadn't given consideration, or enough consideration, to these blind spots. I had the option of a bike path, but it's a significantly longer option, but it's one that I now do, as I've already said. My treatment is ongoing. I am still in the process of completing my endodontic work. Once this is done, I will need to consult an oral max surgeon to determine if a bone graft is required, and then I'll need further surgery for at least 7 implants. But it's not all bad. Just think how I end up looking after all my treatment has been completed. Thank you.